Hi, everyone. My name is Mel Robertson, and I'd like to welcome you to Happiness is Your Own Damn Fault. What we're talking about is how to drop the baggage, increase your frequency, and live a bliss-filled life. Now, I decided to put this summit together because I want you to know that happiness is available to everyone, no matter the circumstances that you've endured. So no matter what you've been through, you can choose happiness now. Happiness is your birthright. It is your natural state of being underneath all the baggage you've been dragging around with you for all these years. So what I wanted to do was interview people who are truly happy and get them to share with you their secrets on how they let go of the past, stopped worrying about the future, and started living their bliss. And today I have an amazing expert in store for you. Her name is Misa Hopkins. Now, Misa Hopkins is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Root of All Healing, 7 Steps to Healing Anything, which has been called the first aid handbook for the new 21st century consciousness. With over 30 years of teaching and training experience, including teaching hundreds of healers, Hopkins is an astute observer of human motivation and potential. Her observations about the healing progress of her clients, students, and friends, and her own miraculous healings led her to groundbreaking conclusions about how miracles are created. What an honor it is to have you here, Misa. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Excellent. Excuse me. So before we jump in, would you want to take a minute just to share with our audience a little bit more about yourself and how you came to be the Breakthrough Healing Coach?
Well, it wasn't planned, I can tell you that much. I wasn't planning that. My first career was actually in education, so my dream was to be a teacher, and if not a teacher, I was going to be an actress. Teaching people how to heal, and so it requires a little bit of both of those interests and loves and passions of mine to help people discover their own inner wisdom, which to me is what teaching is really about, at least in the way that I explore it, and also just a little bit of theatrics, because we need some of that just to keep ourselves entertained. So that's my background, but it really was my mother that brought healing into my life, and now you might know that story. I was playing around with sound. I've been singing since I was a little squirt, and I got a call from my brother one day. My mother had been ill for many, many years, and he said to me, "Hey, sis, Mom's really bad now. She's in the hospital, and the doctors don't expect her to live through the week. Would you come see her?" And the reason he was placing the call in that way was because I had been away from my family for about 2 years doing some very deep core work. And lovingly, I had explained to them I got triggered every time I was with my family, and I just needed a reprieve into myself, a retreat into myself, so that I could come back to my family with greater strength and love. And so he knew that's what was going on. And I said, well, of course I will come back. And I got to the hospital, and the doctors had been informed that a prodigal daughter was coming home. They gave my mother an extra shot of morphine right before I went in to see her. And I have to tell you, Mel, we had the most beautiful, forgiving, loving, embracing conversation I have ever had with my mother. Aww. And then, bless her heart, she started slipping under the morphine. Well, I did what I'd been doing since I was a little child. I just started humming to her. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. I'd hum my brothers and sisters to sleep. Well, this beautiful native chant came out that I'd never heard before. And my mother was part native, and that was an aspect of her life she'd wondered about but never explored. And as I'm humming to her, there are tears trickling down her cheek, which I have been told is very difficult to do, to have a physical emotional response when you're under that kind of heavy sedation. And when I finished singing this song, I could see inside of her body, and I could see what the doctors couldn't. They had been reluctant to run any tests because they were concerned that the tests alone would shorten her life. And I could see this infection in her bronchial tube and across one lung, and my spirit said to her spirit, "Mom, what do you need?" And I saw this gorgeous, clear, beautiful, radiant light fill her chest. And then everything got quiet. And as if on cue, my sister, the only other woman in the family, walked in the room, sat down in the silence, which is the only time there's been silence amongst us three women. We sat in the silence holding hands poetically as the sun comes down. So we're in the sacred feminine womb is the way I describe it, in the stillness, so that Mom could be reborn. And she was. She was sitting up in her bed about 2 hours later, laughing with her family. There are 6 kids in the family, and most of us were married and had kids. You can imagine how crowded that little room was. And she was beaming. Her eyes were clear. Her cheeks were full of color. She was happy. And the doctor walked in the room, and literally, and I do mean literally, his jaw dropped.
Oh, I bet.
I expected to see it. I wasn't saying anything. I was just watching. They held her for 1 day for observation. The next day she came home, and she stayed another 3 months with us. It was 3 months that she got to finish up what she needed to before she really did cross over. And she left me with just one of the most precious gifts that a daughter could receive from a mother. And that was an awareness about my own healing gift and the power that lived inside of me I didn't even know existed.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That's what led me into my work. You know, I said to myself, there's something here that clearly Spirit wants me to see and know, that my mother lived to show me. And so how do I use this gift? How do I serve others in a way that not only helping them heal, which I did for many years with my sounds, and I still do, but I think what is even more important now, and that is for people to discover that power within themselves. You know, so that you have that access to your ability to heal, to resolve, to find inner peace, and ultimately for that explosion of happiness to burst forth out of you, that joy and vibrant desire to experience love in its fullness that most of us have, and many of us with chronic illnesses, serious illnesses, chronic depression, think it's unattainable, it's out there somewhere. Other people get to have that, and why did I get cursed? You know? What did I do? You didn't do anything wrong. It's just that we have over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years lost touch with this very powerful force that lives within us. It just needs to be awakened, that's all, and practiced, put into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how can we begin to get back in touch with that lost wisdom, that intuitive wisdom that we have inside that we, haven't been connected to? Someone that hasn't been connected to it, how can they begin to start making that connection again?
You know, it's one of those things that I've discovered now is simpler than we think it is. Fear builds up around it. Often because in my experience of working with people in past lives or childhood experiences where we were told, don't do that, it's usually within your psychic and spiritual gifts. So don't do that, it scares me. I don't understand it. There was nobody to coach you, maybe nobody to recognize your gift. It might come through from past lives where you abused your powers, abused your gifts, or even in this life, if you abused your gifts in any way, or you had an experience with them where the gift itself scared you. Very often that happens for people who have visionary dreams, for example. They see bad things that could happen and it scares them and they lock down their abilities. So we have these beautiful spiritual gifts inside of us that can help us live life, thrive in life, and help us heal that we've cut off access to. And in my experience, if we rediscover those gifts, then we start finding our natural talents. And they live very close to the things we already love to do. Now, I do readings for people all over the world where we sit down and talk about what are your spiritual gifts. So for, a half an hour to an hour, you get my undivided attention sitting with you. and saying, well, I see this gift in you and this ability. We're not all built the same. And this is what's
Thank God.
We're so much more fun this way. And this is what blocks it. And this is what you can do to open it. So the prescriptions are pretty individual for each person. But ultimately, I think in general what we can say is that if we do the things that bring us pleasure, we will unlock them. So, for example, for me, it was very simple. If I sing, right, that's what I've been doing since I was a little kid. My gift that helps me heal and awaken is primarily through sound. I'm singing, I'm awakening, I'm healing. When I stop singing, then it can't get through in the same way. And singing, by the way, also has a deep association with listening. So just being still and being present to the silence is equally valid with that gift as it is with all gifts. Just being still so that we notice who we are. I've met people whose spiritual gift is to write themselves well. I met a woman who wrote herself out of chronic illness.
I like that.
She let the words flow and the poetry flow, and as she wrote, she healed, and then she taught other people how to do the same thing, who had the same kind of gift. Another woman who, many people actually, who can dream themselves well. In my native teachings, they're called dreamers. These are individuals that can reweave life through the dreams that they have. So the way that you attend to your dreams, the way that you set your intentions, the way that you keep your life clear becomes very important because it gets played out in your dream time, your sleeping time. So you develop your relationship with your dreams. Some people visualize, and as much as we use that word for almost everything, please visualize. You visualize. No, not everybody visualizes, quite frankly. Some people hear, some people sense, some people feel deeply. Some people do visualize, and they can visualize themselves as well. I was blessed to support a 70-year-old woman who did not necessarily have a belief in metaphysical healing. She was open to it. I sang to her while she held a visualization of her own to heal her heart. A week later, her daughter took her to the doctor, and she had grown a new valve to her heart.
Amazing.
That's the power of ours. Yes, and it was right there for her. She just didn't know it. And I said, you visualize, don't you? If I say see a rose, you actually see it, don't you? She said, yeah, like everybody does. And I said, honey, I can't do that.
Nope, I can't. Nope, I'm a feeler.
Yep, you're a feeler. So you would feel the rose inside you. There are people that would smell the rose inside them. I said, I could hear it opening, but I can't see it like you do. That's your unique gift. And if you see whatever you need to see for your heart, you will heal it. And she did. So our gifts are such beautiful, wonderful ways that we have been teased and tempted throughout our lives to just go for it and experience them. And that's why, because that's where our deep, deep connections to the divine and our intuitive wisdom really live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you found that in your life, Mel? Is that true for you too?
Absolutely. Just connecting to my intuition, yeah. So I understand that you have a really cool definition of what a miracle is. Would you want to share that for a second?
I'd be happy to. But first, I want to clarify that we have a misconception about what miracles are.
Yes.
It's nobody's fault. It's just a misconception. We tend to think miracles happen instantaneously because we said the right prayer on the right day, caught God in the mood. And so now we're led to the magic cure, you know, whether that's the healer that can touch us and we'll be well, or the right doctor that gives us the right medication, or literally we just wake up one morning and we're well. And that's really not how miracles happen. It can be an end result, but it's not how the miracle actually happens. Miracles happen over time. The reason we think it happens this way that we say the prayer, we ask the big favor and we did it right, is that that's how we did it when we were children. Isn't that how we ask our parents for what we want?
Yep.
If I catch the right parent on the right day and they're in the right mood and I ask in just the right way and I position it correctly, I have a 50-50 chance of getting what I want. Only 50-50, by the way.
You're right. That's not very good.
Very good odds. Right. So we pray the same way, which means, as my elder taught me, we're praying with an element of doubt, which means miracles happen. We actually just sabotaged our own miracle.
Right.
With the doubt. And that's the way children learn to ask, and then we carry it right into adulthood, into our relationship with God as we know God, or the divine as we know the divine, and it backfires, and we think we have done something wrong or God hates us.
Right, absolutely. So how do you pray without that element of doubt?
Well, that's right, because it's not the way we need to pray. What we need to do is look at the challenge and say, oh, my spirit is seeking out some lesson through this physical obstacle. I wonder what the lesson is. And open ourselves with open-ended questions. What gift is behind this illness for me? What gift is behind this challenge for me? Whatever obstacle it might be in our lives. What is this trying to show me about who I really am and my full and complete potential? And am I willing to live into that potential right now? And if I am, now that's where my gift comes into play. Am I going to sing it into being? Am I going to visualize it into being? And affirm it throughout my day with my gift, with my heart wide open. And that heart is a key, because if your heart is closed and you're doing all that work, as my mother showed me, it was the heart that made the difference, you see. When I went to see her, her heart was open, my heart was open. I have used my sound medicine without my heart open, and very little happens. When the heart opens, the healing is almost instantaneous, and that's the miracle we're looking for. So it's, yes, using those beautiful gifts, opening up our hearts. And the beautiful thing about opening up your heart is that even when you're in the middle of the emotional challenge, say you're feeling some regret or some resentment, if you open to love, you are holding that emotion in love. And the love supersedes it all. So something I've been teaching my students and my listeners for a long time is that when you doubt, what happens is you're resetting. This is what my elders taught me. You reset. So you've been making good healing progress, and oops, there's a doubt. And now we go all the way back to the beginning and start over again. So we've lost our... Am
I ever going to get out of the beginning?
That's what happens. That's what we think, right? So here's the very cool thing, is that when the doubt comes up, it's got to come up, by the way. That's part of releasing the doubt so that you can actually experience your miracle. It must come up. When you meet it with love, love is the transcendent state. So now the doubt is being held in this container of love, and you are progressing. So the fear, the anxiety, whatever's coming up is dissolving in the presence of that love as you are singing or writing or exercising or visualizing or dancing, whatever you are doing. That you love to do. It's buoying you up in that love so you can sustain a state of love. And then you can meet that doubt in such a way that it does not overpower you, but rather you move through it as it dissolves. And you have set up a condition within yourself that welcomes miracles, quote, what we call miracles, or instantaneous healing, instantaneous manifestation is there. You're open to it. It can now be present in your life. So it's really fun.
You're right.
Fun. Go ahead.
So what would be a good way for someone to really start to get in touch with and open their heart today? Like while they're after this interview, if they want to start getting in touch with their heart and connecting to that, what would be a good way to open their heart up so they can be receptive to what the universe has in store for them?
That's a great question. What I find works very, very quickly with my clients, my invitation is usually this. Think of a moment in your life when you felt love. any moment. Could be a moment you were alone out in the woods, a moment with your lover, with your child, something that made you laugh, something that opened your heart and compassion, something that just felt sweet and tender and kind. It could be a moment where you felt like you were giving something in love, or it could be a moment where you felt like you were receiving in love, or you were just in this state together. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can feel it. Mm-hmm. If I think of it right now, I can feel it inside my body, and let that feeling permeate you. And as you are present to whatever's coming up in your life, whatever's moving through in that state of love, and it could be anything from happiness to despair, if you need to remind yourself of that moment, that moment I felt love. And what's amazing about us as human beings is that we have the capacity to be present in a state of love with whatever is happening inside of our bodies emotionally or physically. Mm-hmm. It is a muscle that needs some cultivation and needs some development for many of us, but we have that wonderful, wonderful capacity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Even being, in a state of utter fear about something, that when you really settle in and connect to your heart and connect to the love, you can feel that love overpower and dissolve the fear in that moment,
Exactly. Well, that fear is a scream for help. The fear is usually a cry for love. So the moment that, and in whatever emotional context that fear arises, the minute we meet it with love, we think we won't be able to handle it and we'll fall apart. The delightful discovery is that your love contains it. And now that scream for help is met with the love it's been asking for all along. And when that emotion has been met with enough love, the depth of love that it needs, it just dissolves. It just doesn't need to scream anymore. It's like, thank you so much. You finally heard me. I'm free. I'm free. And there's this explosion of release that many people feel. There's often a deep, deep silence that occurs once enough love has been met, and then there's this, like an exhale of release, and everything opens up. Now we're really in that state of freedom.
Yeah, that state of freedom, the feeling of bliss. Speaking of bliss, I would love to talk to you for a moment about what living your bliss means to you today and what that looks like in your life for you, if you'd be open to sharing that.
Oh, that would be fun. My current practice is being in the wonder of life. Completely in the wonder. And that includes being in the wonder, say, of my allergies responding to the spring right now. They are bloom along with all the trees and the plants. And being in the wonder of what that means, in addition to being in the wonder of an idea I'm having for my business. Being in the wonder of just, we have right now a pair of bald eagles that are flying in this area where I live. And so my husband and I are constantly on alert for the bald eagles. Now, come to the window. come look, they're flying by. To be in the wonder of life. And the biggest challenge for me with that is when I'm not feeling well. My back's hurting right now because I strained it. And giving myself permission to be in the wonder of that discomfort. And how it makes me feel a little old, I'm kind of bent over as I'm walking. Is this what it's going to be like when I get older? I don't want that. We're not going to do that. But being in the wonder of that feeling and saying, but that's going to give me tremendous empathy. It gives me tremendous empathy for the blessed women and men who can't stand up straight. And isn't that wonderful to know that I have that empathy in me now? All right, now that I know that empathy is in me, stand up straight, Misa. Stretch the muscles. Give them lots of heat. Give them lots of love and let them heal quickly. That's where the big challenge is. And, of course, the great delight is being in the wonder of nature and the wonder of my husband with his incredible wit. And I get to work with him all day long. So he's constantly to crack me up. And he's my big supporter in my business and my big cheerleader. So to be in the wonder of him, what is it that can create such a witty and clever man? What is that like? So as I explore the wonder, I explore the bliss that is here. I almost can't help it. It just is here, and wonder is the doorway into that beautiful, radiant love.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
That one, I like that. Great to get the answer.
Right, absolutely. So we're just about out of time, Misa, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the free gift that you're offering for everyone today that's participating in this summit.
I've decided to offer, I had to think about this one carefully, but I decided that really the best thing to offer is a small book I've put together. It's called Beating the Odds, 10 Beliefs That Can Short-Circuit Your Healing. And the reason is that it talks about one of the beliefs that we discussed today, that belief that God works in this way. And then we get ourselves confused and we sabotage our own healing and we don't even know that we're doing it. We're really doing our best to create a fulfilled life and to experience physical health. And our belief, by the way, is that once we have physical health, then we will be happy. And in my experience, it doesn't always work that way. If you generate a little happiness inside yourself, the physical health often follows. And so beating the odds is intended to help you see those thought patterns and those emotional patterns and be able to recognize them in such a way that you could say, oh, I can change that. Of course you can shift that so that your thought patterns and your emotional choices, and they are choices, lean toward more and more happiness in your life so that the journey can be a little lighter and a little more fun as you're healing, both emotionally and or physically. So beating the odds. And it can be found at my website at misahopkins.com. And my name is spelled M as in mother, I, S as in sacred, A, misahopkins.com.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that gift. I can't wait to beat the odds myself. Yeah, right. Before we go, would you want to leave our audience with any parting words of wisdom?
I think it is that concept that healing in our lives with anything, and I've done deep emotional healing work and deep, profound physical healing work, does not have to be a drudgery. In fact, it won't work if it is. You won't heal if it's just, oh my God, I have to do this, and that's not working, and you won't heal. The healing comes from that profound desire to experience happiness in your body and in your emotions in your life, and a willingness to make the choices that lead to that outcome. And here's the opportunity for most of us. When we are really challenged physically and emotionally, there's a spiral that we start going into of despair. And it can be very difficult in that despair to have the willpower to actually do what we need to do on our own behalf. And so it takes a spark inside you, and with every person it's a little different, to find what motivates you to move toward that happiness. Is it for the sake of your children? Is it for the sake of your partner? Is it for the sake of the sacred work that you come here to do? What's going to motivate you to exercise your will, to take that step that you sense intuitively, to engage your creativity, your spiritual gift in such a way that you are creating a world that is happy, that is more vibrant. And as you create that world inside of you, your body and your emotions will catch up.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Excellent. So I just want to remind everyone before we close that happiness is an inside job, and it is available to every single one of us. We live in a time where we can choose to drop whatever baggage we've been carrying around with us. We can drop the old story. It starts with a simple choice. You are powerful beyond measure, and all you need to do is tap into the divine power that created you and follow the guidance you are given. You were born to be happy, experience joy, and live an abundant, blissed-out, spacious life. I want to hear from you, so hit reply to this email and share your thoughts with me. Misa, it's been such an honor to have you here with me today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. What a beautiful, beautiful topic for us to be exploring. I'm so glad you're doing this work, Mel. Thank you. On behalf of all of us, if I can do that. Thank you.
Thanks for the honor of being able to put it on.
Excellent. Most excellent.